Welcome to the Creator's Journey with the Halfling and the Spaceman. We love talking with creators about their creative journeys. The Halfling is taking the day off, so I'm joined by her spirit animal, Hedrick the Halfling's Hedgehog. Today, Hedrick and I are going to be getting to know Bob Brinkman. Bob is a role-playing game designer and a freelance author for Goodman Games, Shields of Faith Games, among others. Hey, Bob.
Hey, how you doing, Spaceman?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, sir?
I am doing fantastic. Had a nice, productive morning, and now we're here. Couldn't be better.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's nice to have some company since the halfling's off doing halfling stuff. I mean, going out to Mount Doom, visiting Rivendell, doing all the cool halfling stuff. And the Spaceman sitting here at the space station, just, drinking his the decaffeinated, desiccated coffee and eating his Spaceman ice cream.
Yeah.
It's
I know what that's like.
It's a hard life for a spaceman, I tell you. So, Bob, let's go ahead and get started. Tell me about your formative years and how did you make the decision to become a game designer? I've been down that road myself, not going to do it again, but tell me about it.
Gosh, I mean, my formative years were, I mean, they were good. I had a very solid home life. I was deep into comic books and reading. My mother gave me an absolute passion for reading, and I was 9 when we moved from Illinois to Michigan, and I discovered Dungeons and Dragons and started gaming. And I mean, we always, back in the days, right, when role playing books were small and brown and roved in boxes of wood and grain, we always made our own adventures, to play at the table, which was generally a piece of graph paper and some notes and way too much treasure. And then as time progressed, I ran more home campaigns and things of that nature. And I don't know as I ever decided to be a game designer so much as I had the good fortune to have the opportunity. And that's one of the things I stress, right? As a game designer, I am no different from any other gamer other than perhaps being a little more fortunate.
It's a tough road to hoe, I tell you.
It can be. It can be.
I'll tell you. Well, so you got your start with D&D and the old wood grain, the little beige book set, as we used to call them, or OD&D as it's called.
Yep, OD&D now.
OD&D. Yeah, I got my start with little black books. It came in a black box. It was called Traveler.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Traveler. It has the best mini game ever. Character creation is my favorite part of Traveler. I could just do that for hours.
Will you live through character creation?
Oh, brilliant.
If you're lucky, you get the muster out. So, Bob, you talked about D&D. We've joked about Traveler. What were some of the other fandoms you got into? You said your mom was a big reader. Tell us about that.
Well, my mother read a lot of romance novels. I mean, my gosh, by the time we left Florida before high school, she had every Harlequin romance that had ever been published. So when I was growing up, when I was a small kid, she wanted to go to the mall. She'd take me to the bookstore. She'd buy me a book. She'd take me to the shoe store. She'd sit me down. She'd ask permission, and then she would leave me there reading a book. And as long as I was good, I got more books. So reading was always a reward. I think I was about 10 or 11 when I first discovered Doctor Who, which was really the first fandom I'd gotten into. We watched Star Trek, we read comic books, but Doctor Who and the Doctor Who Fan Club of America was my first real fandom. In high school, I discovered Renaissance fairs. And so after high school, I started performing at Renaissance fairs. Matter of fact, went on to be for 3 years as the entertainment director of the Bristol Renaissance Fair. So all of these things, science fiction and fantasy, sort of swirling in my brain. I'm still a voracious reader. I can read most novels in a couple hours, and so I just have to be able to keep up sometimes.
I understand. I understand. I don't read like I used to. Believe me, it's defining time. Audiobooks are now our thing.
Those count. So many people are like, oh, it's an audiobook. No, it's still a book. It's still the story. You're still absorbing it. But so we're in the process. We moved to Indiana 2.5 years ago,
Mhm.
and so we're still in the process of unpacking, and we're now finally unboxing our books. We just set up the library. We have 23 bookcases in the library, and about 6,000 books to unpack and alphabetize and sort. But it'll be wonderful to have them all back out and
I
available.
I understand. The Halfling and I have actually been purging our book collection, slowly winnowing them down to the ones we haven't read yet. And that's one of the things that happens if you're a big reader is that you pick up books saying, okay, I'm going to read this. And then it just sits on your TBR pile and you never get to it.
Oh, if my to read pile were to fall over, it would kill me in my sleep. But it, so my wife Jen and I, where most people have date night, we'll be like, oh well, this afternoon let's go use book shopping, or if we're driving cross country, we will plot our trip from used bookstore to used bookstore, and so we'll walk into a used bookstore and walk out with 2 to 3 boxes, and then start reading.
Yeah, I'm like that about gaming stuff, or at least I used to be. I would go to used bookstores, just whenever I visited someplace new, go to the used bookstore to check out the gaming stuff because you never know when you're going to find that rare treasure.
It's very true, but it's so hard to find vintage gaming materials anymore. Everything from my childhood is just getting more and more expensive to replace, and gaming books especially have gotten crazy. I mean, 10 years ago, I could buy a vintage player's handbook, first edition D&D for like $5.
Mhm.
No, not if it still has all of its pages. Nowhere close anymore. It's getting more expensive, and so it's just harder to find.
I understand. I still one day hope to lay my hands on a copy of the Riverworld RPG. No, not the Riverworld, Ringworld.
Ringworld from Chaosium.
That from Chaosium, yeah. It was in the game store when I was in high school, and I didn't have any money, and all my money was going into D&D and Traveler. Missed my window of opportunity.
I miss my old Elf Quest.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Well, we've been talking about old stuff, and did ever, a lot of people who are geeks when they're coming along, they get a lot of heck from people about being weird or geeky. Did you ever face that when you were a kid?
Not really. I think I was very fortunate, um, because by the time I had just when I was a kid, most boys read comic books, so that was normal. And when we moved to Michigan, I was in a private school,
Mhm.
and that's where I learned to play D&Ds because they had already started playing, so I was surrounded by them. By high school, I wouldn't say I was an outcast. I mean, there was people that gamed and people that didn't. But then, of course, there was the Satanic Panic, and local governments were banning the playing of Dungeons and Dragons in public buildings like libraries and parks, and so that got a little bit crazy. But overall, I was never really treated different. I was very, very fortunate in the people that I've had surrounding me all my life.
It's funny you mentioned the Satanic Panic. The Halfling and I were actually talking yesterday about the Satanic Panic and how we don't miss it. But specifically, we were talking about RPG safety tools. And I looked at Janet and I said, does this mean that Patricia Pulling and Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons were right?
It's so tough because as a knee jerk reaction when I first heard about safety tools for role playing games, I was like, "What? No, no!" You just and because I'm old and I'm grumpy and I don't necessarily like change. But when I actually stopped and thought about the reasoning behind it. I mean, the whole point is everyone should have fun at the table. That should be rule one at any game.
Absolutely.
And and if there's something that's going to obstruct that or cause someone to be upset rather than having a good time, it's good to be able to have tools to prevent that. So it didn't take me long to come around, but boy, the first time I heard it, I was just, but we all share trauma at the table, right?
Depends on how the dice are rolling.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's a side issue and need not detain us. It's just something we were talking about. Not we were so fondly remembering the Satanic Panic and how wonderful it made our lives.
It was interesting.
It was. It was. It was. So back to your work for a second.
Sure.
Where do you draw your inspirations from for all these cool things you do?
You know, I take inspiration from everywhere I can find it. If we're traveling somewhere, I'm always looking at strange architecture or like when we went to Northern California and we were going through the redwoods, grabbing visual inspiration there. But it can come from anywhere. I was watching a documentary about World War II, and they dropped some pretty horrific details about the aftermath of the Hiroshima bombings. And I was working on a horror-based adventure at the time, and there was just one tiny little nugget that hit me and stuck in my brain. I'm like, oh, I'm using that. And it was just the sound. It was a sound. And I was able to create an encounter and creature around that. I mean, yes, it's very easy to draw inspiration almost in whole cloth from books or television and things like that. But I try to avoid that. I want that one little nugget. I think I'm fortunate since I do most of my writing for Dungeon Crawl Classics these days, where most role-playing games, it's all about the entire story, right? And we've all met that guy that wants to tell you about his character for 3 hours. But it's all about the story. It's all about the sweeping grand story. And DCC is a game of moments. And yes, there's still a story unfolding, but really it's those visceral moments that lock into your head. And so being able to pick and choose tiny little things to build moments around has been very beneficial.
Talking about people that want to tell you about their characters. I have a story. I was at Gen Con and we were running a booth. This was way before the Halfling and the Spaceman. It's back in the 90s. Now I was running a booth and a guy comes up to me, starts talking to me. He starts telling me about his like 50th level D&D character. And he just keeps going and keeps going. And he's, just will not stop. I said, okay, I've got to go to a panel, but first I got to go to the bathroom. The guy follows me to the restroom. And while I'm trying to take care of what's nature's necessities, he's still telling me about his 50th level paladin.
Yeah.
So we've all met that guy.
We have, and it's you have to appreciate their enthusiasm, but it's one of the things I've learned over time, right? Is as we as society have learned more and more what socially awkward really can be, is that it's just that they're not picking up on the social cues, and sometimes you just have to say that was really great, but I've got to go, and just turn around and walk away. If that doesn't work, find someone else to scrape them off on. We've done that. I think we've all done that too, right? Oh, hey, you really need to talk to my friend Bill over here. Hey, Bill, check this guy's story out, and run.
It's it's funny. It's funny because we all have these stories, and hopefully we're not the one that is the clueless person who's doing this and not picking up on the social cues. But there's a kind way to deal with it and an unkind way to deal with it. And I think we should try to be kind whenever possible.
I think that the world would be a lot better if we all just tried to be kind. Because at the end of the day, they're enthusiastic. It's not that they're trying to suck all of the life out of your soul. It just might be happening, but it's not intentional. And these are important things to consider. I mean, we have a shared passion, and sometimes people want to share that at length.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Roger's a big guy. I'm a big guy. Roger plays D&D. I play D&D. We're buddies. It's okay. I want to be everybody's buddy. Well, maybe not everybody, but yeah, there are certain tyrants out there in the world I don't want to be. But if you're a nerd,
Yeah.
all right. So, Bob, now let's go back to what you're working on. Tell us about what you're working on now, if you can.
Okay, so I've got a number of projects in motion right now. Let's see. First of all, I have a Patreon where I am translating the Dictionnaire Infernal from French, which is a language I don't speak or read, to English, so it is a slow process. And I'm creating playable Dungeon Crawl Classics content for every entry as I go. I've been doing that for about 2 years now, and have released about 300 pages of content. I'm working on an adventure for Dungeon Con coming up in May from Goodman Games, and I finished an adventure that's going to crowdfunding with actually two adventures that are going to crowdfunding with Goodman in January. One is Temple of the Blind Sultan, which ties into Caverns of Thracia by Janelle Jaquez. And the other is Centaur Awakenings, which is part of the Pinball Crawl Classics box set that's coming out. Let's see, I've got a horror adventure in progress, which is the House on Larson Lane. Let's see, I've got another adventure coming out from the Heroic Adventure line, which is Veins of the Fallen, and I'm also writing 2 new adventures for Weird Frontiers, which is a weird Western themed Dungeon Crawl Classics variant, and a few other projects as well. Not just the gaming stuff that I'm working.
Tell us about the non-gaming stuff.
Well, so on the non-gaming side of things, I have been researching and collecting Lovecraftian films for a very long time. For almost 30 years. And I'm currently working on a viewer's guide to Lovecraftian short films. And that's going to cover 1,000 short films. And beyond that, I'm working on a catalog raison for Lovecraftian features, short films, television programs. And that's a multi-volume project that will probably take me. I'll probably be working on that until I slump over in my chair. There's a lot of films. But that's the non-gaming work that I'm dealing with right now, and with luck, I should have the short film book completed by the end of the year.
Cool. That is very awesome. Talking about Lovecraft and talking about gaming, a couple of years ago, I had this idea that I pitched for at a gaming con as a game. I didn't have anybody show up. I don't know why, but it was Ice Road Truckers at the Mountains of Madness.
I would play that, and so there used to be a show on the air. It was I would call it one of my guilty pleasures, but I really didn't feel guilty about it at all. It was a show called Mountain Monsters. It was a group of Appalachian hillbillies hunting monsters in the mountains with guns, and it was fantastic. The adventures wrote themselves, and I over a course of 3 years at GaryCon, I ran a 3-part continuing adventure using Mountain Monsters and Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, Ice Road Truckers. Yeah, I'd play that in a heartbeat. For a one-off con game, stuff like that is just so much fun.
Yeah, the basic premise was that you're Ice Road Truckers from the Ice Road Truckers TV show. The TV show's busy being filmed and recorded for the new season, and suddenly you're transported from the Arctic to the Antarctic.
That could be problematic.
It could be problematic. So it was just a bit of fun. It was just a bit of fun. Bob, One of the things that we talk to everybody about, want to ask everybody, is about their process. Everybody has a little bit of different process on the way they approach their work, whether they're a writer or an artist, or in your case, a game designer. Could you tell us about the process you use, either internally or externally, when you're putting together these various projects you're doing for Goodman Games and others?
Sure. So, I sit when I sit down, I've got the initial concept because generally I've had to pitch the adventure concept, and so I'll have pitched anywhere from like 5 to 10 adventure ideas, and they'll say, I like that one, just that one, really? Okay, well, I'll just resend you these other 9 with my next one next time. But I'll sit down with that concept and I'll kind of turn that over my brain for a couple of days. If I'm doing something for like Weird Frontiers, which is historically based, I'll start deep diving into bits of Wikipedia lore. I wrote an adventure called The Malevolent Seven, and I wanted all 7 to be historic gunfighters. And so I did a deep dive looking for the people that would fit the bill of what I was looking for. And, I'll make my notes and things of that nature. Then I normally have, I don't want to call it a template because a template makes it sound too mechanical, but I've got essentially the how the adventure I'm writing gets laid out. If I'm writing for DCC, it's the room numbers and just the sort of the basic setup, so I can keep formatted as I go. Mm-hmm. And I'll write the initial adventure introduction, and I'll tweak that till I'm happy with it and I've got a good feeling. Then I will put on music that fits the mood of what I'm writing, and I've got a fairly decent musical library and eclectic tastes. And then I will start writing from beginning to end. I'll create the map, I'll start filling it in, and then once I'm done, I will then go back and reread that introduction and see how much my entire plan has changed, and then fix the beginning so it now matches what I've created. I don't get locked in by what I'm starting with. I sort of discover as I go.
Oh, okay. So it's more of a discovery process then.
Yeah. It's fun that way.
Yeah, because you never know where it's going to go. Another question related is, so how did you develop your skills as a professional writer? Because a game designer is a professional writer.
That is true. For me, when my wife started editing for Goodman Games, and I'd had an opportunity at that point to write like, I want to say 3 one-page encounters for a 5e book that Goodman Games released, and a friend of ours who was on the Spellburn podcast had suggested that, Dungeon Crawl Classics can probably support a second podcast at this point. And so we started the Sanctum Secorum podcast. And one of the things we did with it was each episode had a companion e-zine. So we were writing and creating content for the game with every episode. And I felt that was really important because that's how you get better at writing, is you write. You could take classes, and classes can give you information about techniques and all sorts of tools of the trade that you haven't thought of. But at the end of the day, if you're not writing, you're not going to get better. You have to keep writing. And so now I can sit down. I think this morning I've written. I was up early. I got up at about 5. Well, the cat got me up at about 5 o'clock this morning. But I've already written about 7,000 words today. Okay. So you just, and it's because you just keep at it, keep writing, and you learn to do things like don't edit on the fly, finish what you're writing and go back, or you'll never finish. And know that you will never be 100% satisfied.
Well, first off, I'm glad to know that we're not the only people in the world with a feline alarm clock.
We've got 4 of them.
They tend to want things on their schedule, not on yours. But that's also very, very good advice. One of the things that I've heard from many, many people is don't edit as you go. or get it all down, then come back.
Yeah. So otherwise, you will just keep refining because you get hung up in seeking that 100% satisfaction with what you've written, which you'll never achieve. But you will hammer away on that page of text for weeks, and you still won't be happy. And that's actually something else that if you want advice for a game designer is separate your ego from what you're writing, because at the end of the day, with some exceptions here and there, if you're writing like for Goodman Games or any publisher, you're not writing for yourself. You're writing for their customers, and they know their customers better than you do. So when they give you feedback, take it. Sometimes it can be worth its weight in gold, but don't let it eat at you. It's just, hey, this is really cool, but we know our customers and they're going to want something a little more like this. Oh, do it.
That reminds me of a conversation I had back in 1989, 89, I think it was. We I had a friend of mine. We were talking about opening up a game store together, and there was this lady who ran, she was a retired school teacher, and she ran a game and hobby store in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So we drove up there, and we were talking to her, and she knows nothing about gaming. She says, the most important thing you can do is you can listen to your customers and know what they want, and not think about what you want, think about what they want, and then that will lead you to be successful. And that's a piece of advice that I've taken with me, even though I never did start the game store. I don't have any interest now. I'm much.
No.
All right. Well, Bob, thanks so much for telling us all about that. But now we've
Sure.
got to do the most important question of the whole conversation. Where can people find out about you?
Well, best place to start would probably be on Patreon, which is Sanctum Media, and that's where I've got the Cult of the Dictionary Infernal. That's the big me project. That's me getting to be me, and people enjoying it. And all members get at least something every month. Even the free members are getting something every month. So there's all sorts of content coming out there. And then follow Goodman Games. We do through Goodman. There's all sorts of information that's dropping. Like I said, there's materials coming to crowdfunding this month. My God, it's January 2026. I don't even know where 2019 went, let alone 2025. And that's currently kind of the two big places that I'm going to be active for the next couple of months. Beyond that, you can find me on Blue Sky under Ceronymus, Ceronomus. You can find me anywhere online under that.
I'll remember to send you a friend request or a follow, whatever you do on Blue Sky.
Stalk. I don't know.
Stalk, yes.
No. It's not Twitter. And we don't stalk. Blue Sky, we're nice.
The Spaceman is stalking game designers now. Have you been stalked by the Spaceman?
I'm pretty sure I've heard a song about that.
Oh my goodness. It's always great to talk to somebody who's still active in the gaming industry. I both lament my not being part of that scene anymore, but I'm also very thankful for the lack of things that went with it sometimes.
It's funny. So when we discovered Dungeon Crawl Classics, we discovered it on its release on Free RPG Day. My wife had never run a game before, and we were at the game store, and she said, I think I would run this game. And I got up, I threw my credit card at my buddy behind the counter and said, take my money, and bought the book. And it's okay, I've been doing this forever, but you want to run a game, here's the book. I'm not going to touch this stuff for a year, just do you. And Jen immediately joined an online community, and my heart dropped, right? I'm like, oh no. I know where this ends. Because so many places, right? Someone comes in, they're enthusiastic. They're like, I have a basic question. And 20 people will find new, creative, and harsh ways to tell them what page it's on. But it was back in the days of Google Plus, and Jen joined the DCC group there, and she asked basic questions, and people were nice, and they were saying things like, "Oh, well, okay, so in the book it says this, but I handle it differently at my table. This is what I do, but you could do it your way at your table." And author Harley Stroh was the first person to greet her, and the DCC community is just nice. On Facebook, it's nice, uh, and that I think has made a huge difference, because yes, some of the communities online, not just gaming, can get really ugly.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's one of the reasons why I try to stay away from some subreddits.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad she found a game that she was enthused about. The same thing happened with Janet, although Janet's been playing, the Halfling's been playing since probably around 1980. But the game she decided that she wanted to game master was Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was a big Anne Rice fan back in the day, and Vampire the Masquerade came out, and she says, "I got to run this." So there's a game for everybody.
Oh yeah, and that's really the thing. And there's not only is there a game for everyone out there, there's games for the people that you don't want to game with, and that's okay, because they can sit around a table and they can have fun, and maybe just by doing that, they can relieve some of the things they're going through in their lives. I mean,
Right.
it's all about just having fun, and while you're doing it, nobody's getting hurt, right? I mean, just we can all sit and agree that we all want to play games. We can play games. We don't have to play games with everybody, but everybody should be able to play games.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We have a policy. Our policy is everyone's welcome, but not every behavior is. So,
Yeah.
so we've developed that over the years in our various things with fandom. So, it's there are some folks that just won't get the clue. But that's a side issue, and it's turning us negative, which is something we don't want to do.
Well, and I don't know as it's really negative. There's a place for everybody in gaming. There's just not necessarily a place at every table for everybody,
Right.
and that's fine. It's just like, I get so tired of edition war conversations. Yes, I played fourth edition once. I had a good time because of the people around me. It wasn't for me, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people that like playing fourth edition D&D, and as long as they're having fun, let them play it. Leave them alone. The same for any setting or any system or any movie, TV, book. Everyone's tastes are different. If we were all just nicer and respected one another a little bit more, we'd be doing better.
Yeah, I have sort of a personal every other edition policy. So I went from AD&D first edition to the 3.0, now to 5. So every other edition. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's hard
I
to
think
justify the churn of the bugs.
I think the first time I played second edition was maybe 20 years ago. So yeah, and that was after I played third and tried fourth. But at the end of the day, if you're sitting around a table with a bunch of friends, whatever system works for you, so you can have a good time, and that's what matters.
Exactly.
And hey, those fourth edition players are lucky; they can buy their books by the pound.
That's true.
So yeah, no, it's all good. There's so much out there. We live in the golden age, the second golden age of gaming, right? Anybody with an idea can get it out there, and it's been miraculous.
It really has been. It really has been. Well, Bob, I think it's about time for us to wrap things up. I wish the halfling were here to help me wrap things up, but I'm going to First off, thank you for joining us today. Well, joining me, and of course, let me move the camera back over so the audience can see him. Hedrick, the halfling hedgehog.
Woohoo!
And I had such a great time, and hopefully Hedrick did too. Hedrick's not saying much today, so thank you.
Surely, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you.
And we always want to thank our audience for joining us today. And we hope that everyone out there in YouTube land and audio land and all the ships at sea have enjoyed and been entertained by today's guest, Bob Brinkman. And as always, this is the Spaceman for the Halfling and the Spaceman podcast. Over and out.